Hi, and welcome back to the channel. I am Colette Elizabeth, and today I have a special guest here with me. We have my friend, I call her Sister Harriet. She is Dr. Kimani Norrington Sands, a friend of the channel. Dr. Norrington Sands is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she has a YouTube channel called Lifting as We Climb Consulting. I've been on her channel a couple of times. She's been on my channel a couple of times. She talks and focuses on Black women and their relationships to either leaving toxic jobs, surviving toxic jobs, or healing from toxic jobs. Dr. Sands, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of share with us what caused you to specialize in this on this topic?
Yes. Well, first, thank you so much, my sister Harriet. So, the audience, if you don't know already, we call each other the Harriet, Sister Harriet, because we both work to help Black women liberate themselves from toxic jobs and do well. So, if you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kimani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in California. I'm originally from Chicago, and I really feel like my experiences in terms of being a toxic job survivor are to really help Black women know they're not alone and to also share resources with Black women. So I'm a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. So a lot of the work I do on my YouTube channel is about liberation and healing, but I also have other resources to help Black women as well.
Thank you so much. And some people may not really understand what a toxic job or toxic work environment, what it looks like. It's one of those things where some people may not understand that they are in a toxic work environment or at a toxic job. So, can you kind of give us a few ingredients or some red flags of
Mhm.
what people would see or experience if they're in a toxic job?
Yes. Well, shameless plug first, because that's something we're going to talk about during the masterclass, which is this Sunday. So, how to heal from a toxic job. That's the first thing we're going to talk about is how do you recognize that your job is toxic? What are the signs? Because as Black women, we've been conditioned that we have to work twice as hard to get half as much. All jobs are not good and they're going to treat us some kind of way. So, we might start believing that's just how jobs are. So how do you distinguish? I was asked this before. How do you distinguish between a bad job and a toxic job? A bad job is just a job you don't like. Maybe you don't like the work, you don't like your colleagues, right? But they're not harming you. The work environment's not harming you. Toxic is when the whatever's happening at the job is poisonous to you in some way. So it's causing you harm. So the micromanaging, the microaggressions, talking behind your back, throwing you under the bus, no opportunities for you to really promote, piling on extra work on top of everything else you're doing with not additional compensation. So it could be the gamut of what it actually looks like. But the main thing that you're able to tell is toxic is that you're being harmed in some way, physically and or psychologically. And so the symptoms might look like high blood pressure, your blood pressures are going up, you're gaining weight, you're losing weight, you can't sleep at night, you're processing what happened at the job, you're crying a lot, you feel very sad, you're crying on your way to work, you're crying leaving work. I've had Black women talk about crying in the bathroom or trying to get themselves together, feeling that sense of dread every day you wake up because you know you have to go to the job, that emotional exhaustion because of all you have to go through to even get yourself prepared to go to the job, and then masking all day when you're at the job, and then afterwards processing what happened at the job. And so now you're thinking about the job all the time. So again, it could be the gamut in terms of ways you may be impacted, but I'm just giving you like a high level overview of what the things might look like. So for each person might look different, but again, the telltale sign is you are being harmed. We saw what happened with Dr. Antoinette binding Candia-Bailey. So we initial reports where it was about workplace bullying.
Right, right. And sometimes I think as Black women, like you said, we're conditioned to just take things.
Yeah.
Big girls don't cry, the superwoman cape on, and that's
I'm weak. You're not gonna run me
right.
out this good job.
I've experienced that. I was harmed and I didn't want to leave, and they're not going to push me out. Can you just briefly talk about some of the health, and you did talk about high blood pressure and things like that, but some of the health things that we adverse health effects that's on us when we
Mhm.
are in a toxic job and how it is impacting us emotionally and mentally and physically.
hmm So I'm going to speak from the perspective of what I've experienced myself personally, but also working with Black women and what the research says. So the research out there is saying that Black women have higher rates of experiencing negative workplaces. So that's out there. And the research also knows, particularly from the American Heart Association, that Black women were now dying at earlier ages because of racism, sexism, and other very stressful in situations such as the toxic work environment. So that's the research. But in terms of what we might experience, might be some of the physical symptoms I talked about just now. But what's scary is there's something called weathering. So, weathering is when you're under chronic stress, that it can cause your organs to age at a faster rate. So, chronologically, you might be one age, but your organs are much older than your chronological age, and you're not aware of that. You're not aware of it. So when you think about being in these really toxic, stressful work environments, you're under chronic stress. And so the impact might be, again, the things that you go to the doctor's able to say, hey, your blood pressure's going up. What's going on? Or I've noticed all these other physical symptoms in you, or your hair's falling out, your hairdresser, like mine did. What's going on with your hair? Your hair's falling out. Like, what's happening? So it might be that, but it might be some other things that we're not able to really recognize until it's really too late.
When you were speaking about the hair falling out, I resonate with that so much. My hair fell out in chunks. It was too short in the middle to even hold a braid because
Wow.
it's people don't realize, I don't think, how much your body reacts to the stress, even if you yourself do not necessarily verbalize it with
hmm
others.
hmm
I verbalized it. I think even my entire family went through my situation. I know you've talked about that before, the
Yeah.
impact that toxic jobs can have on those who are around you, including your
Yeah.
family and friends. Do you want to discuss
Absolutely.
it a little bit?
Yeah, so the toxicity is kind of like bleeds into all areas of your life. So you're dealing with toxicity at work, but it doesn't just end there because when you come home, more than likely you're processing what's happened to you and or you are so emotionally exhausted, you're not fully available for your family or your friends. So you're kind of a shell of a person. So they are seeing this and they're able to recognize that there's been a change in you. And the more you're talking about the job, they're able to say, oh, it's because of the job. So now you're talking about the job so much, it has come into your home. And I always say that it's like that it's invaded your home space. And so my hope is that our home is our sanctuary space. But when your job comes in, you're talking about the job all the time. Now those bullies and all those negative people are in your house. So think about when it's time for you to relax or go to sleep, you can't really fully relax. You can't really sleep because they're in your psyche. And so you can't really turn it off. And so for our family and our friends who witness that, that can make them feel a sense of helplessness, but they also can feel anger, depression, anxiety. They can experience the same symptoms that we are by association. So even though again, that's kind of like vicarious traumatization, they haven't gone through it, but they can hear it or they're re-traumatized based upon your own experiences.
Yes, I that it's almost like the racialized trauma that's passed down from enslaved
Generation.
individual generational enslavement, that trauma that you hear people talk about.
Mm.
I read someplace about how many people who are in toxic environments, they're in a constant state of fight or flight mode,
Yep.
so their cortisone levels are out of whack.
Yep.
um,
Or
and
it might
so
even freeze, right? Freeze. Like you just don't even know what to do.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the reactions and the responses in the body can vary depending on the person.
hmm
But the
hmm
thing I'm hearing you say that they all have in common is that it's harming us. Whether
Yes.
we manifest it physically or emotionally or mentally, there is harm being
Can
done.
harm us spiritually too.
Yes.
So, for me, I've always been a very spiritual person, but I used to question like, why would God put me through this? I'm a good person, I'm a good worker, I look out for people, I've done all these wonderful things for people. why would God be punishing me at this toxic job? So it was a spiritual crisis as well. I couldn't understand it. But I still have a really good Black woman therapist. And she said, you know what? God is actually saving you from this job because God is telling you that you deserve something bigger and better. And God is making it so difficult for you. This is a rescue mission from God. So I was able to reframe it in a
Oh,
way, as
wow.
opposed to God was punishing me, to God is saving me from this very toxic environment that doesn't deserve me, doesn't deserve my brilliance.
Right. I heard one person say one time, and I don't know if they were talking about toxic jobs or in general, but
Mhm.
sometimes places just do not have the capacity to
Right.
hold your brilliance,
Right.
right? They just don't have the capacity. And what you find is that instead of admitting they don't have that capacity, they would try to minimize it or eliminate and say they don't recognize your talents, they don't recognize your skills, or they don't exist. But a bright light is shining whether you put a something on top of it or not. It's going to shine. Yes,
That bright light is shining on their insecurities because they're
exactly.
deeply insecure. So the more you shine, and it may not be something you're just shining. The more you shine, the more intimidated they are, and they will do everything they can to put you in your place and to discredit you and do things so that number one, other people don't recognize that they don't have what you have.
Right.
Okay. So they focus on you. So let's target that person. And it's a way for them to kind of avoid thinking about their own insecurities because they're
Yes.
focusing on someone else.
Yes. I often talk about the three things that I see in almost every situation where there is a toxic work environment, a toxic leader, a toxic boss, is they generally have three things in common. They're insecure, they're
Mm-hmm.
incompetent, and they're
Oh,
immature. So I always say those three things are what I see and what I personally experienced. And you
yes.
generally, I have not seen toxic bosses were those one of those one or all of those things are not there.
That is so
Um,
true.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. I recently did a video too, because I was looking at, I think her name is Dr. Ramani, and she talks about narcissism. And she was talking about narcissistic bosses. And I did a video about that narcissistic traits that unfortunately a lot of people who struggle with narcissism and narcissism traits go into leadership positions.
They do.
Right? So
That's
they're
right.
trying to deal with that deep-seated insecurity they have, right? So when they see you and you're outshine, so now it's kind of provoked this narcissistic injury, this deep wound they have, and it's like almost like a rage. Like, how dare you show me up like that? So I'm gonna put you in your place.
Right, right. And that's true. When I was as I was doing my research for my dissertation, one of the things I found, and it's on in leadership, is that the studies show that many people who go into leadership have narcissistic tendencies. Many of them, most of them actually. And many of the traits that people in our society, our capitalistic society, our dog eat dog society sort of rewards
Yep,
many of those very toxic traits.
yep,
So the
yep.
more a person exhibit many of these toxic traits, the more they're rewarded.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. So many times organizations are not looking at employee satisfaction. They're looking at the bottom line, the money. And these narcissistic people with the traits or whatever, the bullies, they may have connections with people. So you never know about the politics and who they connected to, but they may have something that the organization values. So maybe they're able to bring in certain clients or they may be able to do certain things. And with that narcissistic kind of quality, very charming in certain situations. So
Mhm.
they may be able to charm certain people, but treat other people, you'd be like, that's a devil. Like, why? Why? But they can charm, they can turn it on and off. So the organization may rally around that person because that person is bringing in some kind of money. And then for you, you might be seen as expendable. So many of us think that, oh, the job wants me to do well because they feel that if I'm doing good, then I will do. They don't even care about you. They don't care about you. So that's the part when we start thinking about going to human resources. Human resources is not there for us, it's there for the company and to protect the company. And so it's really being educated about really what role human resources has. And if we go to human resources to be informed about what could possibly happen.
Right, right. And I remind people that when you go to human resources, and I went to human resources
I did
thinking
too.
that things would get resolved.
Girl.
But when you think about it logically, human resources is being paid by the person or the company or the organization that you have this complaint about. So they are
Yes.
in a position to where their job is to ensure, for example, I worked for a state agency. Hey,
Mhm.
they were in the news about something they were doing stupid every day. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's minimize this. We
Yes.
don't want this to get to the news. We don't want this to go to court.
Mhm.
And what I found, in addition to what you said, them actually rewarding narcissistic behavior, is many of them are just lazy and refuse to do the things that they have to do unless
Mhm.
they're forced to do it. For example, if the union get comes in, then they may do something, or if an outside agency comes in, then they
Mhm.
may do something. But like you said, they know about these people. I
Mhm.
personally know that they're aware of many of these toxic leaders, managers who are harassing people,
Mhm.
and they promote them
They sure
and
do.
protect them. I mean,
Yes.
I was personally aware of a situation where this man sexually harassed had a number of sexual harassment cases. I had to handle two of them
Wow.
several times. So, like you said, they know about these things and they're
Mhm.
aware of them, and they
Mhm.
either are the people either have something they want, this person didn't, or they're just too lazy to do what needs to be done. Because I honestly think they look at who is making the accusation and who is accused, and
Mhm.
they weigh that.
Yep.
There's a value placed on who's doing the accusation, and there's a value placed on who's being accused, and
True.
then they handle things according to how they value those parties.
True.
Do you want to
True.
speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we're expendable. We're expendable. So if they value the person who's bringing that money and you're not bringing the money, they will just let you go. And so thinking about, or not let you go, but they're not really there to protect you. And so when you go to human resources, be prepared that as you come into that office, they've already talked to the bully, they've already talked to all these people, so they already know what's going on. And we coming in with our documentation, and we don't share your documentation with them. Okay, make sure that you document things separately away from the job. And that again, you are very clear about why are you going to human resources and what can you expect to get back from human resources. Because Amory Archer, the anti-HR HR lady, says, once you go to HR, you basically have a target on your back. So be aware of that. And you need to start exit planning even before you go to human resources.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And you talked about having a target on your back. That was my next question. What makes a person a target besides speaking up from themselves in your experience?
Well, first, a system likes to maintain a system. So even if the system's dysfunctional, they will target anyone who messes up the system. So you are seen as an outsider, like you're messing up the flow of the system. So you got to go. And so again, they will do whatever they can to make it seem like you're the problem. So they may use your documentation against you in some kind of way, or they might build a case. I've had Black women talk to me about go to human resources. Next thing they know, they're on the PIP, a
Yes.
progressive people like, what just happened? And so the target is we got to figure out how to get this person out of here. And a lot of times they use your own information, or you think that you're coming in for support, but they are working, they're starting to build a case against you, and you never would have known it.
Right. And for those who may not know what a PIP is, PIP, that's a performance improvement plan. And what I can say, having been in management for almost 2 decades, is that many times, once you have made the complaint, that PIP is already written when you meet with HR. They're just meeting with you to fill in some of the facts
Wow.
based
Wow.
on the evidence that you bring to them to defend your case. In other
Mm,
words, like Dr. Kimani said, they've already spoken to the bully. They've spoken
mm-hmm,
to the bully's boss, and they've
mm-hmm,
also spoken to, in some cases, some of the other witnesses or folks who are just bystanders, but they're not going to say anything. And they've
mm-hmm,
already corralled the horses around the organization or company, if you will. So HR is kind of like the PR person as well. So they have corralled everything around. and they've talked to your manager. Okay, what
Mhm.
are some of the issues she's had? Oh, she's
Mhm.
been late. How many times she been late? So somehow they will get that information that you're bringing, and that information is being used to just fill in the blanks of a
Mhm.
already written PIP. Okay,
Wow.
so
I didn't know that, Colette.
that's why when some of these folks say, I went to human resources, I thought they were going to help me. 1 week later, I had a PIP. Well, that's because
Mm.
that PIP was already written up. The skeleton was already written up. That was already
Wow.
the plan. The plan never was to help you. Now, if you look a certain way, some folks do have protection because of the complexion. And I'm just going to keep it 100 with you.
Mhm.
It's just what it is. If you're a
Mhm.
black woman, 9 times out of 10, their job is to keep you in your place. It's like that
Yes.
William Shakespeare play, the Taming of the Shrew.
Ooh.
They feel they have to tame us, to dress us
Mm.
down, to put you in your place. And the
Mm.
sad part about it is, I know I've been asked a number of times on this channel, how do other Black women play into it? Many
Oh.
times, other Black women are used as tools, and they're complicit in
Mhm.
this behavior.
Mhm.
We have a saying, all skin folk ain't
Kinfolk ain't
kinfolk.
kinfolk. Yeah.
Yeah, we know this. We
Mhm.
know this. So do not be surprised because somebody is your same color, they're not there helping. That's been historically
So
going
true.
on. That's right. The
Since
system
since
that Dr.
slavery.
There you go. The system that Dr.
Mhm.
Kimani spoke about cannot exist without the help of Black tools.
Yes.
It cannot exist because
No.
if the Black tools did not make themselves available, that system would collapse.
Yes.
It could not exist. So can you talk a little bit about that? And then I want you to talk about how somebody who cannot leave the workplace, how they can survive while they're getting out, and then the services that you offer.
Sure. Okay. Um, so when we think about these toxic workplaces, and we just think about racism, sexism permeates all of our systems. So it's at all of our jobs. So some people within the workplace, even if they're not white, might still internalize white supremacist behaviors. White supremacist behaviors and thoughts are, I see another, let's say it's a black person. I see that other black person as a competition, and I need to take that person out because that person is messing up my promotion. That person's messing up something for me or how I look because I want to be the one, the shining black person. So they will do things. They might act like they're your friends and talk behind your back and throw you under the bus. I've had that happen to me. They may lie to you and tell you misinformation, or it's a lot of different things they might do. But the main point is they have internalized white supremacist ways of thinking and acting. And so it plays out in terms of and they might say, oh, I'm pro-black or but look at their behavior. Look at the
Look at their
behavior,
behavior.
collect the data, and see what happens. Something else I want to say, Colette, 'cause I know we've talked about this too, is when I talk about toxic jobs, when you talk about toxic jobs, many people who watch our videos assume that we're only talking about white people, and we're not. We're talking
No.
about anybody who engages in white supremacist behaviors. So it could be another black person, it could be another person who's not black but not white. So, and that's what happened to me. It wasn't another white person. Well, a white person was involved, but the main culprit, the main puppet master was someone who, and I don't know, I know you don't like to say person of color, but she's a person of color. And so, when you think about the demographics and where we are in the country, it may look different in terms of who might be in positions of power. So in California, it's very different than maybe like in the South or in the East or the Midwest. So the dynamics might be look different, the demographics are different. But the main thing that we want you to understand is these people, whoever's doing this behavior, is really bought into this white supremacist way of being.
Right. And people think, oh, well, that person's a minority too. So how could that be? Uh, that can be
There's a
because
hierarchy.
there is a pecking order
It
in this
sure is.
in this system, and the rules, people know them, people abide by these rules. And you're right, I do think that many people assume that when we're speaking about racism and these racist institutions, that all of the players that we're speaking about, they assume that they are white. And I have never said that they were all white,
Right.
because they have not always been white. In fact,
Yeah.
some of the most damaging experiences I have experienced in toxic work environments have been from, or been, what should I say? They have been people who look like me have been involved and allowed it to happen when they could have stopped it. But by the same token, the folks who stepped in looked like me and stopped it. You know what I mean? As well
Mhm.
as others. So understand that because we say racism, that
Mhm.
does not always mean white. Because you
No.
are white, you're not, that's not the only person involved in this system. The ism is a system. So there's
Mhm.
many different people in this ism, right?
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
cannot rely on just one group of people to run an entire system. Everybody
Mhm.
plays their parts, and
Mhm.
understand that those parts change depending on the dynamics of what's going on in that system.
So
And
true.
it, right, and it also changed depending on what the person who is in one role wants and where they want to get, and how
Mhm.
they feel or perceive you stand in the way of that.
Absolutely.
What was that show called where people got voted off the island?
The survivors.
Survivor. Remember the show Survivor? Some of those
Mhm.
people, they liked the person, but that person was in their way, so they voted they got with somebody they didn't like, right? To vote the person off the island. Why? Because they wanted to win the money. I don't know what the money was, how much it was, but they would get they friends with the person thinking that's their friend. Girl, they went in another room and they got two or three back deals you didn't know nothing about. Next thing
Wow.
you know, you voted off the island. That's how it is when you bully. You voted off the island, and a lot of
That's so
times you're
true.
like, well, even though I was on the island.
That's so true.
The other thing I want to end with, and I'm going to let you take over, is a lot of times when you are have being bullied, you don't realize that these people been playing this game the whole time. You the one, just because you don't know you in the game, that don't mean you're not in it.
So true.
Thank you.
Conspiring against you. And that's the part that could be so painful. So
Yeah.
once you leave and you figure out what has been going on for how long, that can be very painful. And when I talk about leaving a job, that's part of the pain. So part of the pain might be not only the dreams you have for the job, no longer there anymore. Maybe you had good friends, they're gone. And the people who betrayed you. The people who
Yeah.
betrayed you. That could be so painful, especially when they're another Black woman.
Yes, yes. I think that that is probably one of the most painful parts, is the figuring out the why. Why
Yeah.
would you do this?
Yeah.
And once you're able to get, for me, I should say, I'm speaking for me, is to
Mhm.
figure out why would you do that?
Yeah.
But once you get past that, I think you can do some things. So we have talked a lot about toxic jobs. Do you want to talk a little bit about your workshop, some of the other services you offer, and your channel, and how people can find you?
Sure. So this Sunday, Marissa Price and I are hosting the How to Heal from a Toxic Job. So the healing is essential because if you don't heal from it, number one, you may end up going to another toxic job or a job that's even worse. Okay. Or you may stay in this place where you can't really move from the job. Like emotionally, you can't really move from the job. So you're still talking about it. You still consume with it. I've had a lot of Black women talk to me about like they've left a toxic job maybe about 2, 3 years ago, and they still can't move past it. They're stuck. So the healing is very important in terms of grieving, that grief process. So that masterclass is available this Sunday, October 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And also privacy considerations. No one will be on camera, only the speakers. So don't have concerns that people are going to know you're trying to leave your job or people going to know you're in a masterclass. No one will know. Okay. So you will not be on camera. Your names will not be listed. It will be Zoom webinar format. Okay. So it's October 27th, this Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. And October 26th is the registration deadline. Okay. So that's coming up. We just had the how to get ready to leave a toxic job in terms of exit planning. That was last Sunday, but you can get the replay. Okay. So Colette's going to put that information in the description section so
Yes.
you can access that as well. So how to actually get that exit plan together is so important. Again, Everything I offer, privacy, so you're not going to see anybody on camera except for the speakers, okay? So if you try to, no, nobody will be there. So the other thing I want to let you know is that we recently had a Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which helped over 300 Black women really come up with their exit plan. So learning from other Black women who've left toxic jobs, how were they able to, not only how were they able to do this, but how can they share the information with you? They gave you practical tips about how to get ready to leave a toxic job in terms of the exit planning, replacing their income, what's about their health insurance, their retirement, their life insurance. So that's available on replay as well. And then we're planning for 2025, which is going to be even bigger and better. And so the waiting list is open for that. So those are the main things going on right now, but I also have other masterclasses on my website. And so in January, we're going to have another live of the financial masterclass, because what I experienced and what other Black women I work with in terms of leaving, or the barrier to leaving a toxic job, is what am I going to do about my bills? I have money, I have bills to pay. I need to replace my income. So we're going to talk about how do you create that financial exit plan. And that is with Dr. Roche Brown and she is a financial psychologist. So she's the same woman I work with to get my financial exit plan ready so I can get out of that job, okay? So again, those are just an overview of things I have. You can check out my website for more information, liftingasweclimbconsulting.com. And then on my YouTube channel, which is Lifting As We Climb Consulting Wellness Services, I share information about how to heal and how to leave a toxic job, but I also have other information available for Black women and the Black community in general. And I generally go on live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Pacific time, because that used to be the worst day of the week for me when I had to go back to the toxic job. So now it's therapeutic because I come on live and I'm sharing information with people. And so I feel like it's part of my healing journey. As I am healing, I'm continuing to pull back and lift up as I'm moving forward. So these are resources that are available to Black women so that you know you're not alone and that you have options.
Thank you so much. And you guys, I just want to thank Dr. Kimani from she's busy. Okay, she's busy, busy. I know she probably have 900 things to do when she gets off this live with me, but she wanted to stop by and we just wanted to make you aware of the services that are available. We both talk about toxic jobs, her more than I, but it's important to both of us to make you aware of the resources that are available, the options that are available. If you are thinking about leaving a toxic job, check out the one of the master classes or all of them. I actually attended her first master class that she did, Dr. Kamani did, on leaving a toxic job. I had already left, but the master class helped me to just put words to some of the things I was dealing with. It helped me to understand that all of what I was dealing with was normal. So
Mhm.
I just think that they're great resources. What I love about Dr. Kamani is that she has her receipts. Okay, she is a licensed clinical psychologist, but she also has her life receipts in that she's been there. She is a survivor.
True that.
So when you talking to her, she knows.
Mm-hmm.
She knows. She already knows.
So the scaries are.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up for the men who are watching, I put on my community tab her video that she did of a man who's also dealing with a toxic job. Black men deal with it too. Even though she and I focus and curate our information towards
Mhm.
Black women, we love men too.
Yes.
Okay. You guys get your channel and we'll watch and support it. But I
Yeah.
did want to let you know that she did do a video with the gentleman. And I'll put that video, a link to that video in this
Awesome.
description as well, so
Thank
that if
you.
you have husbands, brothers, uncles who are
Son,
dealing with that, sons, you can get information about how this person is dealing with it. And I'll also put in my description resources on different places where you can go to get help.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I periodically do videos with Black men because I think it's important for us as a Black community to understand each other's experiences and to really challenge all these gender wars and all that garbage.
Yeah.
No, no. When we don't understand each other's experiences, we are divided, and that leaves us open for people to continue to exploit us. So, as a Black community, it's important for us to know each other's experiences.
Yes, yes. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I just want to say I'm so happy for you two because I met you and you have become my sister friend. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Me too. Everybody, you guys check out her channel. Again, I will put the link in the description. She also has talk a little bit about your workbook, the digital
Oh,
workbook you
yeah.
have. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So that's the Welcome to Your Queendom Digital Fillable Workbook. So I actually came up with a roadmap for myself to emotionally prepare myself for, I knew I was leaving a toxic job. So when I was at the toxic job, I created this roadmap to help me again mentally get ready. I knew I was walking through a lot of fear and I knew there was a lot of things coming up for me. So I created this and I said, you know what? I'm gonna turn this into a workbook. So it's Welcome to Your Queendom, and the name is Welcome Back to Yourself. Because when we're at these toxic jobs, they do not treat us like a queen at all. And so we might even lose our self-confidence. We might question ourselves. We might question our worth. But I want us to all know that we are queens. And I also titled the workbook that name because when I was at Spelman College, that's my background. When I was at Spelman College and when I graduated, Oprah Winfrey was our graduation speaker, and she said, in life, people might try to treat you like you're a slave girl, but you remember you're a queen girl. And I always remember that, especially when I was at the toxic job. So I want Black women to know that we are queens and we can reclaim that. We can connect to ourselves again. And it's just like a mental process of getting ourselves together. So the workbook has different prompts to help Black women reconnect to themselves.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Sister Harriet. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you stopping by. Of course, we're going to be doing some more things together. She'll be back on my channel. I'll be on her channel. So thank you so much. You're welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it with anyone who you think may be helpful, share the links to Dr. Kimani's master course to anyone who you think may be helpful. You may not be ready to leave your toxic job now, but getting the information now can
Being
kind of help
prepared.
you and be prepared and steady your mind a little bit.
Mhm.
So just share it out. And Dr. Kamani, you want to close us out and say anything before we close out?
Yes, Black women, I just want you to know that you are queens and that we deserve so much better than these toxic work experiences. And you may not believe that it's possible to leave a toxic job. I want to tell you that it is, but I am also showing you with what I have done and sharing that, but also all the Black women that I've interviewed on my YouTube channel. It's been a lot. And none of them, myself included, has ever said they regretted leaving a toxic job. So you may not know the how you can replace your income, but lean into and learn how because you really can leave. You really can find ways to replace that income. You can find ways about what to do about your health insurance. You do have options. Don't feel that, even though it's a realistic feeling. Challenge that thought that, oh my God, this job is the only place where I can get money. That's not true. And if you need additional support where the job has broken you down so much, or you are really questioning or having doubts about your own confidence, or it's bringing up a history of like your own traumas, it might be beneficial for you to go into therapy as well. So as you're exit planning, therapy might be a good idea.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Kamani. Like and share this video, and we will talk soon.
Yeah.